Welcome back to the channel. You may recognize this bull elk and its missing tine from a previous build, seen here, the Tomahawk. And now I'm going to give you guys a video of the other part of the antler that I made into a knife. So here you could see from a previous clip, this is the elk antler that I found in the field. And I actually hadn't planned on making the Tomahawk. I started off with the knife. Started this quite a while ago, and I've been saving this footage until I completed it. I've been deciding whether or not to actually engrave it or just leave it polished and kind of pearl/ivory looking. So I took the buffing wheel to a good chunk of it just to get off the what I would call nature's patina off what I wanted, and then kept some of the areas that had grooves and natural colors in it. Drilled a little hole in the back for a rope, and then just finished getting that handle down. And I like the way it turned out, and it sat for over a month while I decided what to do. I've decided what to do with this piece. I'm going to sand all of the ink and drawings that I was originally going to etch into it off, make it white, more white and polished. I'm going to cut a piece of elk antler and inlay it in there, and then I'm going to decide what to do with this and the bottom, and put some clear coat on it and just have it as a really nice ivory looking piece. So stay tuned for this build. And by the way, I got a new gas mask, so we'll see how this thing goes. So the first hour in the shop was spent just figuring out which antler would actually be best suited for the inlay itself. So put on the new gas mask and got to work. Tried out a few different fittings and then spent quite a while actually sanding down all the marker. Definitely got to try to find a better way to mark things up on there. It didn't take too much off the finish, but it was definitely a lot more work than I anticipated. Just spent about an hour in the shop getting all the marker off and working on an inlay for this area, an antler handle. I'm still not 100% sold. I don't have a whole bunch of room left there, starting to get into the marrow, but I wanted to keep these natural grooves and colors in it, so I'm not going to put any engravings or anything on this. I'm going to engrave an owl in the end, and take this from 300 grain to 1000 and possibly more, and make it look like an ivory knife. Stay tuned. Back in the shop, just going to finish this up. So I found some leather and I just kind of patched it in there to see what it would look like, and then I got the idea, instead of doing an antler cut inlay and messing with the marrow, I don't have much left to do, and I just think it's a better look. I'm gonna wrap the handle in leather. So my next steps right now are just polishing the rest of this. I'm gonna wrap this in leather, and then I've also got to carve in that owl in the end, and then it'll be done. So stay tuned for this build. And we're back on the Dremel. Multiple bits, multiple mistakes. I actually ended up sanding down the wings that I made here. So this was originally drawn in marker, which I like doing in this way, so that I can just kind of etch it out. And sometimes I leave it in epoxy. It looks pretty decent, but I don't have a lot of carving time. I got some new bits that make eyes, so this is the first time really trying those out. I ended up trying to bevel the edges of this to make the owl look 3D. If you've ever worked with antler, you know it is a dusty, smelly, stinky mess, and I'm really liking this new mask. I ended up taking the carbon filter off the front. There's quite a bit of weight on the neck. After the Dremel, I went to the wood burner that I have not used since I was a kid, and just tried to replace where the marker would ended up getting sanded off, and just tried to fill in some colors with the wood burner. I definitely busted this tip and over torqued it, but that's fine. It achieved the look that I wanted. I was trying to ultimately just iron in a darker pattern. I did not like the way this looked, so I just took a grinding bit down and just took it right back down to the bone. Got the owl all burnt in there. I'm gonna clean up these edges and just define a little bit. I've got this piece wrapped here just for extra padding, and then I'm going to bind this whole thing and probably just super glue the ends, but I've got a lot of sanding and finishing to do on this, so I'm gonna do a hyperlapse with that, and stay tuned. I know watching people sand isn't that interesting, but I did spend a lot of time sanding this from 120 all the way to 1000 grit. I've sanded this down now to 1000 grit. I'm going to attempt to wrap the handle in leather, try different glues, see how that all goes. So I tested this out. It's not real leather, and the super glue didn't affect any of it. I didn't get any lumps. I spent quite a bit of time just gluing the base and overwrapping and gluing on top of the pleather, and it didn't break it up or change the color at all. So this took about 10 minutes or so to get it all wrapped up, and then I just overlapped it and glued it and was quite pleased with the look. Obviously I would have preferred real leather, but I found this patch, and so I just decided to go with the flow and use it. Wax this now and get it all nice and smooth, and then I don't know what that was. That was a remote. And then I'm gonna put some leather care on, and then we'll see how it looks. I've seen a bunch of different products used for this stuff. I'm just trying out this wax for now. I seem to like it. It doesn't create too much of a sheen, and it just looks really nice in accents. Here I'm using some top coat nail polish just to seal off any marrow spots. And this last impromptu piece, I just trimmed a little piece of that pleather, and with the grooves that I made to make the owl look 3D in the base of this knife, I just laid some super glue in there and then pushed it all down with a flathead small screwdriver. Worked out pretty good. If I decide to change my mind, it's not too much to rip it out and just put it back in there. I'll definitely work with some other real leathers and some other materials in the future, but for now we just found the scrap from replacing a sled seat that my dog chewed off. So here I'm just trimming up the last pieces of it and making it look as pretty as possible. Last but not least, the owl, and now the showpiece. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Here's some cheesy smoke.